You have seen the first 10. And if you tried even 2 or 3 of those ideas, you already know what this channel has been saying from the beginning. The difference between a yard that looks expensive and one that looks neglected is almost never about money. It is about decisions. Specific, deliberate, well-placed decisions that communicate care, intention, and design thinking to anyone who looks at the space. Today we go further. 10 more cheap ways to make your yard look expensive. Ideas that build on what came before. Ideas for the parts of the yard the first list did not touch. Ideas for the details, the finishing layer that takes a yard from good to genuinely impressive. Every one of them costs almost nothing. Every one of them works this weekend. Stay to Idea 10, because that one is the detail that professional garden designers put into every project they work on, and that almost no home gardener ever thinks to do. Let's go. Welcome back to Daily Garden Fix, where cheap materials and good decisions produce results that look like they cost considerably more. Before Idea 1, drop a comment and tell me which idea from the first list you tried and what happened when you did. I read every comment on this channel, and I reply to everyone. And if something from the first video did not work the way you expected, tell me what went wrong. Let's fix it. Idea 1, the clipped evergreen anchor. Idea number 1. The single planting decision that does more for the year-round appearance of any yard than any seasonal flower or annual display. A clipped evergreen, a box ball, a clipped pittosporum, a shaped euonymus, a standard bay trained into a lollipop. Give the yard something that most yards permanently lack. Permanent structure. A plant that looks deliberate and considered in January exactly as it does in July. Seasonal flowers are beautiful while they last. But a yard built entirely on seasonal plants has months where it looks unfinished, bare soil, cut back stems, nothing of visual substance. A clipped evergreen never has an off-season. It is always there, always the same, always providing the visual anchor that holds the planting scheme together regardless of what is or is not flowering around it. Place one at the entrance to the yard, one on either side of the back door, one as a full stop at the end of the main pathway. These positions are where structure matters most, where the eye looks first, and where the absence of something permanent is most felt. A single small clip box ball from a garden center costs $5 to $10. It looks like a considered design decision from the day it goes in. Budget, $5 to $15 per plant. Idea 2, the consistent pot color. Idea number 2, the zero-cost upgrade that is available to anyone who already owns containers. Look at your yard right now. Count the number of different pot colors, the terracotta one, the black plastic one, the faded green one, the white ceramic one someone gave you, the blue glazed one from a sale 3 years ago. Every different color is a separate visual instruction telling the eye to stop, process, and move on. The result is visual noise. Eliminate the noise. Pick one color. Paint every container that does not already match it. A can of exterior spray paint in matte charcoal, chalk white, or terracotta costs $4 to $6 and covers 8 to 12 containers. One afternoon, one color. The entire container collection becomes a unified decision rather than an accidental assortment. What happens immediately is that the plants become the visual story. The containers become the neutral supporting cast. Every flower color, every leaf texture, every plant form reads more clearly against a consistent container background than it ever did against a collection of competing colors. This is the single principle behind every expensive planter collection you have ever seen in a garden magazine. The plants vary. The pots do not. Budget, $4 to $6 for spray paint. Idea 3, the defined lawn edge. Idea number 3. The maintenance task that most people skip, and that makes more difference to the perceived quality of a yard than almost any new addition. A lawn with a clean, sharp, consistently vertical edge between the grass and the surrounding border. Cut with a half-moon edger along every transition line in the yard. Reads as maintained at a professional level. The plants are not different. The beds are not larger. The grass is not greener. But the boundary between them is precise and deliberate. And precision communicates care. An unedged lawn looks like the garden is not quite finished regardless of what has been planted in the beds beside it. An edged lawn looks like someone tends it, An attended yard looks expensive because attention is the one quality that genuinely cannot be faked. Do this once a month through the growing season. It takes 20 minutes per average yard. The return on 20 minutes of work per month, in terms of how the entire space reads to anyone who looks at it, is disproportionate to any other task in garden maintenance. Budget, $0 if you own an edger. $15 if you need to buy one. Idea 4. The night blooming corner. Idea number 4. The yard upgrade that exists entirely for the hours when you are most likely to actually be outside. Most yards are designed for daylight, for how they look when the sun is out and everyone can see them. But most people actually use their outdoor space in the evening, after work, after dinner, in the warm hours between sunset and full dark when the day finally releases its grip. A night blooming corner is a small planting area positioned beside the main seating spot, designed specifically for the evening hours. Night-scented stock releasing clove and vanilla fragrance at dusk. Nicotiana with its sweet honeyed evening scent. White flowers that glow in low light. White cosmos, white roses, white Japanese anemones that become more beautiful as the light fades rather than disappearing into darkness the way colored flowers do. Add one solar lantern at the base of the planting, one warm light source that catches the white flowers from below at dusk and makes the whole corner glow from within. The yard that is beautiful in the evening is the yard you actually want to be in, designed for when you will use the space rather than for when other people will see it. Budget, $10 to $20 for plants. Idea 5. The hidden storage solution. Idea number 5. The yard upgrade that is not about adding anything beautiful. It is about removing everything ugly. Hoses coiled against the fence. Stacks of plastic pots waiting to be used. Garden tools leaning against a wall. A bag of compost with the top folded over. These are the objects that make even a well-planted yard read as unfinished. They are not eyesores individually. Together, they communicate that the yard is a working space rather than a design one. A simple lidded storage box. A wooden deck box built from reclaimed timber, a galvanized metal trunk, a painted wooden crate with a fitted lid, placed in one corner of the yard contains all of it. The hose, the tools, the spare pots, the half-used bag of fertilizer. The lid goes on. The yard immediately reads differently. Paint the storage box in the same color as your fence or your container collection. It disappears into the design rather than sitting as an obvious addition. A storage box that disappears is one that does its job perfectly. Budget, $0 to $30 depending on whether you build or buy. Idea 6. The focal point destination. Idea number 6. The principle that the most expensive looking yards all share, and that the cheapest yards consistently lack. Every great yard has a destination. Something at the end of a pathway, in the far corner, at the center of the main view from the back door that draws the eye and asks it to travel across the space to get there. Without a destination, the eye has nowhere to go. It moves around the yard without rest and returns to the viewer without having seen anything specific. The yard reads as a collection of things rather than a composed space. The destination can be anything: a single beautiful container, a bird bath, a piece of garden art, a bench positioned with care, a specimen plant in a bold pot. What it needs is one quality above everything else. It needs to be worth looking at from a distance. Place it where the main sight line from the back door ends. Everything else in the yard then becomes the journey toward it. The pathway leads to it. The planting frames it. The eye moves across the whole yard to reach it, and in doing so experiences the whole yard rather than none of it. One object, in the right position. The difference between a yard with a destination and one without is the difference between a room with a fireplace and one without. Budget, entirely dependent on the object chosen, often under $20. Idea 7. The gravel mulch upgrade. Idea number 7. The surface material that does everything dark bark mulch does, suppresses weeds, retains moisture, gives planted beds a finished appearance, but with additional qualities that bark cannot match. Decorative gravel as a bed mulch, silver granite, golden flint, or slate gray chippings laid 2 to 3 inches deep over weed membrane across a planted bed, reflects light upward into the plants above it. This upward reflection brightens the foliage, makes flower colors more saturated from below, and gives the entire bed a quality of luminosity on overcast days that bark mulch simply does not produce. It is also permanent. Bark mulch breaks down and needs replacing every 1 to 2 seasons. Gravel does not break down. It is a one-time installation that looks the same in year 5 as it did in year 1. And the aesthetic, planting emerging from a clean gravel surface, is one of the defining qualities of contemporary garden design. Almost every high-budget garden made in the last 20 years uses some version of it. The material costs $3 to $5 a bag. The effect is that of a much more expensive design decision. Budget, $15 to $25 for enough gravel to mulch a substantial bed. 7 ideas in. 3 more to go. Coming up, the lighting technique that makes a yard look 3 times the size after dark. And idea 10, the detail that professional garden designers put into every project and that almost no home gardener ever thinks to do. Stay with me. Idea 8, the uplighting technique. Idea number 8, the garden lighting technique that professional designers use on high-budget projects and that costs $15 to replicate at home. Uplighting, a light source positioned at ground level, angled upward through the foliage or structure above it, produces a fundamentally different result from any down lighting or eye-level lighting. It illuminates from below. It creates depth and drama in the plant form above it. It makes a tree, a large shrub, or a structural plant look enormous and important after dark. Take a solar-powered LED floodlight, $10 to $15 from any hardware store. Push the stake into the soil at the base of the most architecturally interesting plant in the yard. Angle the beam upward through the canopy or foliage. Switch on at dusk. The plant above it transforms. The structure becomes dramatic. The shadows it casts on the fence or wall behind it become part of the display. One uplighter at the base of one plant changes the entire character of the yard after dark. Add a second at the base of the garden arch or the main structural feature. A third at the focal point destination from idea 6. 3 solar uplighters. $30 to $45. A yard that looks designed, lit, and intentional after dark. Budget, $10 to $15 per uplighter. Idea 9, the one perfect hanging basket. Idea number 9, the vertical planting idea that works in the tiniest yard and that, done properly, produces a planting display more beautiful than most ground-level arrangements. One hanging basket, not 6. Not a collection scattered around the yard at random intervals. 1. Made with the same care and thought you would give to the most prominent container in the yard. Choose a basket large enough to matter, at least 30 centimeters in diameter. A larger basket holds more compost, dries out more slowly, produces more growth, and always looks better than a small one. Line it with core liner pressed firmly against the basket interior. Fill with quality multi-purpose compost mixed with water-retaining granules. Hanging baskets dry out faster than any other container type, and the granules extend the time between waterings significantly. Plant with the thriller-filler-spiller principle from the previous video. One upright focal plant in the center. Dense mounding plants around it. Trailing plants at the outer edges that will cascade downward over the rim. Feed weekly with liquid tomato fertilizer once flowering begins. Water daily in hot weather. A well-fed, well-watered hanging basket in full growth is a genuinely extraordinary sight and one that most yards never achieve because the feeding and watering are inconsistent. One basket done properly is worth more visually than 6 baskets done carelessly. Budget, $5 to $10 for the basket and plants. Idea 10, the considered blank space. Idea number 10, the last one. The detail I told you professional garden designers put into every project they work on. Empty space. Deliberately chosen, deliberately maintained, deliberately empty space in a yard. Most home gardeners treat empty space as a problem to solve, as a gap to fill, as bare ground that needs a plant or bare fence that needs a pot or a corner that needs something in it. The instinct is always to add, to fill the space until the yard feels complete. Professional garden designers know the opposite. They know that a yard without any empty space has no room to breathe. No pause. No moment where the eye can rest before moving to the next thing. A yard where every inch is filled feels busy and anxious rather than considered and calm. Empty space is the thing that makes everything around it more visible. The single plant in a bed of clean gravel looks more significant than the same plant in a crowded border precisely because the space around it allows it to be seen. The garden bench with clear ground around it feels more like a destination than one surrounded by competing plants. Look at your yard. Find the area that you have been meaning to fill. The bare patch of gravel, the clear section of fence, the empty corner that keeps waiting for the right plant to come along. Consider leaving it empty. Not because you have given up on it, because you have understood something important about it, that what surrounds an empty space matters more than what fills it. That the clearest sign of a designed yard is not how many things are in it. It is how deliberately the spaces between things have been chosen. The most expensive-looking yards always have more space than the cheaper-looking ones. Not because their owners had less to spend, because they had the discipline to stop adding before the space was full. That discipline is free. It costs nothing, and it is the single quality that more than any other makes a yard look like it was designed by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Budget zero. The most valuable decision costs nothing at all. 10 more cheap ways to make your yard look expensive. The clipped evergreen anchor. The consistent pot color. The defined lawn edge. The night blooming corner. The hidden storage solution. The focal point destination. The gravel mulch upgrade. The uplighting technique, the one perfect hanging basket, and the considered blank space that makes everything around it more beautiful. Here's what I want right now. In the comments, tell me which one idea from today's list you're implementing this weekend. 1. The most achievable, the most needed, the one that addresses the specific thing about your yard that has been bothering you longest. And if you have not seen the first 10 cheap ways video, the link is on screen right now. Because these 10 ideas build on those 10. Together, they're a complete transformation system for any yard at almost no cost. I read every comment. I replied to everyone. Share this with one person whose yard has potential they have stopped believing in. Because every yard on this list started the same way. Overlooked, underloved, waiting for someone to pay attention. Paying attention is free. Starting is this weekend. Next week on Daily Garden Fix, 10 container garden ideas for small spaces. Everyone achievable in an afternoon. Everyone beautiful enough to transform a balcony, a patio, or the smallest outdoor space into somewhere that feels deliberately designed. Subscribe. Hit the bell. I will see you there. Leave one space empty. See what it does.